I am Dr. Rosemary Hyde, and I am leading these metaphysical classes, discussions for Living Peace Now. Metaphysics is simply the way everything works. And so in these classes, in this whole series of classes, we focused on learning more about things that aren't physically obvious, that help us to become more able, more successful, happier, more effective in our lives. And today we're starting a series of classes based on this book, which is The Extended Mind by Annie Murphy Paul. And if you can get the book, on Kindle or in any printed format, it would be helpful. It's a good book. It really does help us to understand more about all the kinds of intelligence that we have, even the ones that aren't measured in IQ tests, and even the ones that nobody talks about in school or in any other way. We still have them. And the better idea we have of all of our abilities, and the better able we are to use all of our abilities, the more able we are, the more successful we are, the happier we can be, because we are creating the life that we want to live. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk today about feelings that we get in our body, that we're kind of trained in Western society to not pay attention to rule out. But there are some that are actually part of our intelligence. And one of our inner senses is knowing in and with our body. And it's a very important sense. And over my life, I've learned that far from ignoring what my body is telling me about whether I should or shouldn't do something, I don't listen to it, because it's way more accurate about what's going to work and what's not going to work than my logical brain is. I've just learned that the hard way throughout my life, that that's what to do. So I'm going to share my screen. And we're calling this class Thinking Outside the Brain. I don't know about you, but me in school was all about thinking, left brain thinking, logic, analysis, judgment. These are the domains that are left side of our brain, for most people, are responsible for. And that's what we call intelligence traditionally in Western education. But intelligence, I think they have actually identified now, started out with 8 forms of intelligence. They're now up to 20 that can be measured independently of each other. They are kinds of intelligence. And everybody has kinds of intelligence that they're better at or not so good at. For instance, my ability to perceive space, especially going horizontally, is the pits. I mean, my intelligence is way below average in doing that. And if that was the measurement of my ability to succeed in the world, I'd be in bad shape. Because it's something that has taken me all my life to just be able to do the basics accurately, to know that if someone's over there, especially a car, when I'm driving, it's not gonna collide with me over here. That's really basic spatial perception, and mine is awful. I guess it's always been that way. Certainly has in my memory. And that's not an intelligence that is necessarily left brain. It's a different kind of intelligence, but mine's not good. I am pretty good at the logical, linguistic, and analytic, judgmental tasks that that the left brain intelligence does. And so I've always done reasonably well in school for that reason. In some subjects, geometry, I flunked. Guess what? Geometry is all about spatial perception. Chemistry, I flunked because I never could make any of the experiments work the way they were supposed to work, any of them. And my experience with cooking is pretty similar. Cooking is pretty chemical. So, my personal ability in a couple of different areas also had something to do with what I did well in and what I didn't do well in school. And that's true for some people. All over our body, we have, I don't know what to call them, perceptive pathways that allow us to notice things that don't have to do with logical thinking. Space and where we are in space, proprioception, is one of those inner senses. It's not an outer sense, it's an inner sense. And I've already told you that my proprioception stinks. So I'm likely to trip over my own feet because of that. On the other hand, I'm a very fast reader and I can remember well what I read. So I've done well on tests, but in school, but I haven't done so well in staying uninjured. What I also personally, I'm pretty good at reading people and seeing how they're feeling about things. And I've got a pretty good sense of, is this really gonna be a good way to act, or should I do it differently? If I ask that question, I usually get a pretty clear answer. Don't do it that way. It's gonna be a bummer. There's no words, I just know. It's like an uneasiness somewhere in my torso. That's the best I can describe it. On the other hand, something that's, yeah, that's a go. I just know it energetically in my body. And that's the sensation intelligence that this chapter is talking about. Now, my sensation perception is pretty good. And what I've learned over my life is I was told I was taught as a child not to pay any attention to those feelings. Guess what? Those feelings are incredibly accurate. I can trust those feelings. I'm right at the moment planning a trip. And my body is telling me, don't do it. And I'm reading up on, I'm planning a trip to Montreal. And I found the flights and I've done my homework and I still haven't got the go-ahead physically in my body. I don't know what's going to happen on that trip, but I can be pretty sure that if I ignore, as I have many times in my life, that inner sensation that's going, it's not going to work out very well. So I'm trying to persuade myself. These feelings have never failed me. That's been the lesson. So most of the time we call something like that a gut feeling or a hunch or an intuition. What is it? What is that feeling anyway? Where does it come from? Where do we feel it? In what part of our body? What does it feel like? And do we believe these feelings when we have them? Should we believe them? Well, I've told you what my experience has been about these feelings. They are accurate. And when I can be humble enough to say, okay, my body knows. My logic doesn't. I need to say yes to what my body is telling me and take that path. And my life will be a lot easier than if I stubbornly follow through with my logical, egoic desires. And, there's questions of what do they feel like? Where are they? How accurate they are. Everybody's got them. But should you believe them? Well, you have to find that out for yourself. And I'll look forward in the discussion part of this to finding out what your personal experiences are with these feelings. And if you're any better than I am in localizing them, it's either, it's a yes or no question. Should I, shouldn't I? The yes is, it's a good feeling. It's like, yes, it's harmonious. It's go ahead, it's free. And the no is, that's what it feels like. I can't put words to it because it's not in words. It's not logical. So I figure, I don't know, it's my intelligence, my native intelligence, which I can call my higher self, telling me, doing its thing, being its form of inner intelligence. And like I said, I have learned that I need to say yes to its messages. And my life is much, much, much better when I do that. And so I invite you to, there's two things. The the feeling is called, I think I have it here someplace, interoception. Ugh, where is it? Piece of this text. Oh, here it is. Interoception. Intero, the prefix, means within. Ception means knowing. Knowing within is that intelligence, that ability. And psychologists can measure it and can measure when it's happening, with putting something on our skull. So somehow it connects with our central nervous system. And psychologists have also shown that people who are more aware of interoception and who have learned to rely on it, these people actually, in measurable ways, suffer less, recover better, manage their energy, and are resilient. Very important concept. Means they bounce back, they recover, they do things that most people don't think they can do. And so these people outlive their life expectation. Like Karen has said that her sister is recovering from surgery much better than she thought. And that's resilience, bouncing back, using everything that you learn from your body to make decisions about, okay, what should I do now? And so interoception is a really important skill. They find that people who live healthily into their 90s and 100s have very good interoception and are very aware of it and use it well. So one thing you can do to cultivate and to build interoception is decide, to do a journal of your interoceptive experience for a week, for whatever time you want. It's not something I have thought about a lot. I have it, I use it, I've learned I better pay attention to it, but I've never done this. I've never done a journal, and I'm gonna, because I think that it will help me become more aware of this sense, this information that I'm getting from my inner awareness of energy. Just, make it a point that at some point each day, you're going to write, you're going to think, did I use interoception today? Was I conscious of it? What did it feel like? Where did I feel it? What did it tell me? It's a practice of building awareness. And the other psychological data that has been found about interoception is that people who meditate regularly. Meditation, what do you do in meditation? You silence all the chatter in your brain and pay attention to being. You become aware of how you feel in your body. So practicing of that awareness builds resilience, builds the ability to bounce back. And so these are two things that you can do to build your awareness of interoception, your interoceptive ability. And I look forward to hearing what you learned in this process.